Welcome back to the Ed Show. Texans have a saying, if brains were leather, he couldn't saddle a flea. In my book, Texas Governor Rick Perry deserves it for this one. Listen to the governor.
Texas is a unique place. When we came in the Union in 1845, one of the issues was that we would be able to leave if we decided to do that.
My hope is that America, and Washington in particular, pays attention. We got a great union. There's absolutely no reason to dissolve it. But if Washington continues to thumb their nose at the American people, you know, who knows what may come out of that.
Is calling for secession just dumb, or is it dangerous? Joining us now is Wayne Slater, senior political writer for the Dallas Morning News and author of Bush's Brain, How Karl Rove Made George W. Bush Presidential. Mr. Slater, good to have you with us tonight. You still have a lot of material down there in Texas, don't you?
And it just gets better and better down here.
Is this governor serious? He sounds like it's a very threatening comment. You know, if the government in Washington keeps doing what they're doing, you never know. We might get out of the union. What's happening here?
Look, this is really smart politics, sort of a small ball for the moment. Rick Perry has a challenge next March against Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison as governor. And he's been losing support among some Republicans. And so what he's really doing is two things. Situating himself here in Texas among the far right and the real conservatives in the Republican Party for that primary so he can win re-election. And then, interestingly, his folks see him as a national figure. So you talk about abortion, you talk about stem cells, you talk about Washington out of control, and then you talk about states' rights and seceding from the Union. This is catnip for the Republican Party conservative wing, and they think this will play nationally. I have to question whether it will.
Now, he only won, 37% of the vote. So this is really, as you say, a political card he's playing. Do you think it'll work?
It could. It really depends on how big the turnout is in the Republican primary. Ultimately, the Republican primary in a lot of states, and certainly in Texas, includes a lot of people who are really conservative, social conservatives and others. And he's banking on the idea that these social conservatives, sort of nativist conservatives, and the folks who are associated, frankly, with the fringe in Texas will rally to his side and make up for it. That's the danger, really, in part of what he's doing. When you appeal to the fringe, then you risk being defined by the fringe. And so the Kay Bailey Hutchison side has to say, you know, I wonder if some of the soccer moms and the economic conservatives and some of the more moderate forces of reason in Texas, when it comes time to vote, or maybe in the general election next November, say, this is too far right, even for us.
Mr. Slater, you've been covering Texas politics for a long time. Kay Bailey Hutchison, how bad do you think she wants to be governor? I mean, you've got to want to lead. You've got to want to get in there. Does she still have the fire in the belly to do this for Texas?
Every indication I get is that she does. I've talked to her a lot. I've talked to her people. I talk to basically her people and Rick Perry's people virtually every day, even though we're some distance away from next year's primary and from the general election. She says she wants to run this race. I think this is a blood feud between herself and Rick Perry for a lot of reasons. I think she is committed to running against him. But I got to say, this latest manifestation of Rick Perry, sort of culture warrior, which is designed to appeal to very conservative Republicans in the primary next year. This manifestation is something that's a shot across the bow to Republicans and moderates and independents in Texas that Perry thinks will pay off and that Hutchison believes will backfire.
Wow. If it pays off, Katie, bar the door. I mean, this is almost qualifies for psycho talk, but that's another day. Mr. Slater, good to have you with us tonight. Thanks so much for your time. For more on this, let's bring in our political panel. Nationally syndicated radio talk show host Bill Press.
Hey, Ed.
And also radio talk show host and MSNBC contributor Michael Schmerkanish. And Laura Flanders, host of GritTV.org. Michael, we'll start with you tonight. Texas, we all should be having a lot of talk radio down in Texas, shouldn't we? How do you play this story on the radio?
Well, Ed, what I see going on here is just as your guest indicated, I'm sure it plays tremendous with the base in Texas. What I think it does is make him unelectable to a national audience. And from my standpoint, Rick Perry has been a guy with his eye on a national prize. That may already have been unrealistic, but I think it presents it's a sign of a bigger problem for the GOP, and that is that these primaries continue to generate candidates who may get elected within the base, but they just can't be big tent candidates. And that's a manifestation of what you're seeing in Texas today.
Bill, you know, the one thing, you take a look at Texas, they're very proud people. There's no question about that. But they kind of have this, there's Texas and then there's the United States. Now, if Rick Perry, if he's thinking about being president of the United States, do you think he's pretty much taking himself out with this kind of rhetoric?
No, absolutely. But I'll tell you, Ed, I take it a lot more seriously than politics. I mean, I'm not kidding. I think Eric Holder, Attorney General Eric Holder, should cite this guy for treason. Come on. He's not some rednecker, you know, living up in the hills somewhere. This is the governor of Texas. I mean, we love political debate. You and I, we specialize in it, right? And the rest of the members of the panel. But there are some limits. You've got some responsibility. Words have consequences. I think this is way over the line. I think it's very dangerous. And, you know, some yahoos are going to believe this guy and believe that the state of Texas has the right to just zip out when they don't like what's happening in Washington.
Laura, your take on all this?
Well, I want to know, are there going to be kids all over Texas saying, okay, the Pledge of Allegiance is off now, I don't have to do it if the governor won't? I mean, I think your other guests are right on. I mean, why is he paying attention and misinterpreting, in fact, 1845 history? It wasn't about the right to secede, it was the right to split up, and I guess they've already cracked up, so what difference does it make? But he's in a state that has 100,000 newly unemployed folks. Those Texans need a leader who will be bringing them together, not pointing the finger somewhere else. A guy who'll take responsibility and not just, well, I guess 97% of the stimulus money.
You know, Michael, that is the one thing. We really don't know where disgruntled Americans will go, how far they will go. Sure. And clearly it seems like Rick Perry is appealing to these people. But wouldn't there be a turnoff by maybe some centrist Republicans that would really I mean, he only won by 37% the last time. I don't see the upside in talking like this. What do you think?
Well, I think I agree with what you've just said, and I think that's what Kay Bailey Hutchinson is hoping for. But that's the big issue for the Republican Party, in the same way that you had that outpouring yesterday among those folks who comprise the base. But the base can't get it done. We just saw that last November. It's got to be more Big Tent oriented. And so far, in the aftermath of that drubbing in November, the GOP hasn't shown any signs of wanting to be inclusionary.
Yeah. Bill, what would be the strategy for Kay Bailey Hutchinson right now? What do you think her best play would be?
You know what I would say if I were Kay Bailey Hutchinson or if I were Barack Obama? Okay, Mr. Governor, the next time you've got a hurricane in Texas, you're on your own, pal. Don't come to Washington looking for any FEMA help. You figure it out how you're going to fix it.
Well, Laura, I would like to know what his plan for health care would be with no government funding.
Health care, and I guess he doesn't want any troops on the border anymore. I mean, it's true. I mean, we can laugh about this stuff, but there is a serious tinge here. Some of what I saw at that rally yesterday at the Alamo was not pretty. It was ugly stuff, and I don't think we've seen the end of it yet. He's encouraging it.
Yeah. Texans ought to actually be scared about this. I mean, if they secede from the Union, you know, we've got a history of invading oil-rich countries. I mean, you know, the other 49 we could be invading too. You never know what's going to happen on this deal, right?